Shalom Aleichem, this is Rabbi Otero with the Ways of Israel. One of the questions that's been raised and rumors going about is regarding questionable conversions. I want to share this with you because many of you already know that for some time now our organization and Mr. A Meza have parted ways. Unfortunate that it may be, but it's something that I think I need to address at this time, only because I've gotten so many reports back from many rabbis, and I am right now trying to do the best I can to try to help those people that have found themselves that their conversions are not valid or has been rendered puzzled by other rabbis. In any case, I want to read something to you that comes from Rabbi Morris Lamb, which should throw some insight as to this whole entire issue and who qualifies as a judge. I want to read this because it's coming from his book, Becoming a Jew, on page 212, and I think it's very important to address this because of this issue. While the lack of traditionally ordained expert scholars was not allowed to obstruct the admission of proselytes throughout history, it did serve to teach that there were the optimum qualifications of members of the court: integrity, personal observance, and scholarship. For example, it does not stand to reason that those who themselves reject the fundamentals of halakhic principles should be allowed to determine the halakhic qualifications of prospective converts. And from this argument we have the reason why, from the Orthodox perspective, they do not accept conservative or reform conversions. Let me continue reading. The litmus test for such judges is not textbook scholarship or ethical values alone, but traditional beliefs and religious practice. This provides an assurance that all aspects of conversions are validly performed. For this reason, traditional Jews will not accept proselytes converted by those who themselves are not traditionally observant, i.e., if the judges are not observant and do not uphold to Torah values and Torah halacha, then those who convert with them also are null and void. Also, no special sanctity adheres to anyone because he holds either a title or specific nationality. Now, Morris Lamb gets into the issue, who is a mainstream rabbi, how that in fact later on the so-called expert mummukim are not even available as it was in times past, where the smicha, the ordination, was passed from Moshe Rabbeinu to his disciples and their disciples. That link has been abrupted, and thus we do not have that. But that does not abrogate in any way this important part of the religious faith of accepting and working with proselytes. There might be a wonderful and deserved praise for being good, says Rabbi Morris Lamb, for being good at what they do, but does not qualify them for the specific mission of conferring a new halakhic status on persons with Christian or Muslim background who wish to live as Jews. This is true also for professors of Bible or Jewish scholars or rabbis who may be competent in highly specialized matter of conversion protocol, even though they are pious and knowledgeable. The ultimate test for lay members of the Batay Din are religious convictions and observance of religious matter, crucial to the Jewish faith and Jewish people, and knowledge required so they may be relied upon to serve wisely as judge for conversion. In other words, according to what I understand, and perhaps I'm misreading here, but it's not the content of the information that qualifies a particular judge, but the ability to be able to judge matters that are crucial to the Jewish faith and Jewish people, and knowledge necessary to which is relied upon to serve as wise judge for conversions. Unfortunately, what I have seen in many Batay Dins is that we have people that should not even be there. And we're talking about the Orthodox world. Their demeanor is just completely contrary to this. They have no intention to try to understand where, in fact, the potential convert is coming from, and to empathize when the need is required. But these qualifications for members of the Batay Din or of Batay Din, its leaders must be one who is ordained and therefore authorized to such weighty matters. And when it uses the word ordained here, it means set forth, because obviously we know that all the ordinations of today are not linked back to the time of Moshe Rabbeinu. So these are modern ordination. All prospective converts should be forewarned on this requirement. This is not simply a matter of interdenominational politics or institutional jealousy. We can often reduce even our most radical spiritual differences to political legerdemain and institute major alterations for the Torah by political manipulation, which, by the way, is what we see today. This is also not a primary question of who is naturalized citizen of the State of Israel. Today, by the virtue of the law of return, which has played an incredible element in this issue of conversion, because many converts wish to return to Israel or go into Israel as immigrants, not necessarily as practicing Jews, just as immigrants to be able to reside, just like a person wants to become an American citizen and not necessarily be of the Christian faith. Same thing is happening currently with the State of Israel. But uniquely to the State of Israel, the majority of those who are it makes up the State of Israel are Jews. And thus we have a problem and dilemma. Because at the same time it does not recognize the Torah as its own constitution, but its people are of the people of the book. The very nub of the public agony caused by conflicting views on conversion is that it really is a matter of life or death for this religion. The whole of the Jewish people could split irremediably over this conflict. Now, obviously, we are split on this issue. And many people, be they rabbis or be they Jews, are torn apart over this issue. It has become a true sorus, as it were, affliction upon the Jewish nation. Now, with this in mind, I want to bring back the importance of what is happening in today's dynamic in the world. Many of the people who are actually wanting to go through conversion today can be arguably defended that most of them have some type of trace of Jewish ancestry, unlike my friend who basically we are no longer together because of our difference of views and difference of perceptions, as well as how we see things. It's very clear to me that an example in Brazil, where it's known even by the most lowest estimates that over 17 million Brazilians are of Anusim, Jews that were forced to convert to another faith, descent. And to this day, many of them hold many practices that are of Jewish descent and have maintained, many of them, what is considered a continuum of marrying within cousins and family members. And I say family members not as to create mamzerims or bastards, which is usually the argument that many of the rabbis will put forth, since they too are somewhat put this into doubt, and thus bring the whole entire group as wanting and having to go through a conversion. Costa Rica, another example, where you have 75% of its inhabitants also of descendants of Sephardic Jews. Now you ask me, where do you get these information? These are public records in the library and information of each of these countries. It's well-known, documented fact, which unfortunately our greatest chachamims in our Jewish world, many of them have ignored and have just decided that we have to come, if they want to come, they have to all be reconverted or converted. Something which Rabbi Duran and many others were completely against. Of course, there are particular cases. One example that I can think of is one that went through conversion, was a Cuban Jew, or is a Cuban Jew, and had to go through conversion, and has written a fabulous book called The 15 Grandmothers. And she narrates and documents specifically how each of her generation did not intermarry. But let's go ahead and have her reconverted or converted. This is what's happening out through the world. So many of the people coming to many Batay Din throughout the world are from these type of people coming into Judaism. Obviously you have some exceptions. You have people who are finding and discovering the truth of Judaism and wanting to convert. With so much pressure in different parts, even in Colombia, for example, where there are groups of people who know that they're of some connection of Judaism and do not have the financial ability to pay for the Batay Dins, and they are surviving and they're living and they know this. Many Batay Dins don't see that they have any obligation to guide them to Judaism, something which Rabbi Uziel, the previous Rishon LeZion, said just contrary. However, we come into the point now of valid Batay Din and disqualifying conversions of Orthodox Jews who are involved, even you might say lay Jews. The halakha is very clear in this thing, brings into a position where a person now becomes a question of doubt. And to this I want to bring over the issue because there's a lot of rumors and a lot of talk throughout many Jewish communities, especially in New York and probably Denver and probably in other parts, regarding conversions that I was involved in, and as well as Mr. Meza was involved in, and Torah Judaism International, which, it's got to be said, is only an internet entity, and Ordea and all of these entities, whether you will become a national organization or not is we'll wait to see. But one thing is very, very clear. There's an attempt to try to disqualify the true intention of a person who is wanting to become a Jew. They have closed the doors on many of these people. Now, true, there are many issues that has arisen as a result of some of these conversions because of persons involved in the Batay Din. And one of the commitments that I have made to many of these people that I myself help through their conversion process and signed my signature on is that I have spoken already to many rabbis and Batay Din and other Jewish leaders in the quote-unquote mainstream Orthodox Judaism in an attempt to try to rectify and correct any potential damage that could have taken place as a result of my involvement with the previous mentioned groups. Thus, I made a video prior to this video letting people know that from hence on I will only be involved with conversions that are recognized by the State of Israel and that are performed halachically, where there are 3 persons who are of Jewish descendants alone. If that's not very clear to you, let me spell it very clear. Though some may be able to argue b'di'evid, after the fact, a convert is still a convert, even if they have on their Batay Din a person or persons who were converts themselves. In some cases, that does not nullify them, depending how you hold. I know many dayanim that have utilized, unbeknownst to them, a person who happens to be of a convert background, and that did not in any way invalidate those conversions they were involved with. Also, I know of a couple of other dayanim who were involved in processing conversions, and they also knowingly accepted on the signature of the Teudah one who happened to be of conversion background. Now, why is all this uproar taking place? Because a lot of this is being seen as wholesale conversions, as group or mass conversions. First of all, whenever we deal with so many people who have basically been already shunned from the gates of conversion, obviously there's a problem. There's a problem not because of the earnestness of the candidate, but rather because of the new chumras that has been in place as a result of wanting to go beyond what is required. And these new chumras have literally created, I would call them, converts with a chip on their shoulder. And I don't need to go any further by giving an example of what I just did. I am not a convert. I am a descendant, a natural-born Jewish descendant. And I made that very clear on many of my videos, and of Jewish descent. But even if that would be an issue of question, which many have tried to raise and tried to accuse me of not being, it really does not matter to me whether you hold one way or the other, for simply the fact is I'm a Jew. I could show you otherwise. But this whole war that has been created because of an intent to try to keep them out. Keep the convert, the proselyte, the earnest convert out. And most of this have been created not from here locally, but there are many rabbis who are very open and supportive of a lot of the work that we've been involved with, because they know firsthand that many of these people do come from Anusim, Marano descendants, and there's no way of proving it, and therefore they have to do something in order to bring them in. So when I spoke to one rabbi not too long ago, that we had helped bring in over 100 people to the fold, as it were, to Judaism, they were in shock. And almost every single one of them had been rejected because either issues of money, either issues of they didn't meet, as it were, the particular new chumras that were required. I won't go into what those new chumras are. But even other areas. We're not talking about being observant. Many of these people that we took on had made a commitment, and after going through the mikveh and having gone through the process, are current observant to Judaism. Many are ignorant still. I agree. We've taught them as much as we can and do our best to can to make sure they have the basic knowledge and understanding of what is required to be a Jew. Nevertheless, because the dynamic of what's happening throughout the world, that is to shun the convert, not to shun them, to slam the door shut in their face, hurt their feelings, after 2, 3, 4, 5 years, the rabbis have successfully, and I say this in a generic way, not picking any fights, because I'm not here to pick any fights. I'm trying to work within the system that has been created by our great sages. But they've created a big turmoil. Follow-up after the conversions could be easily solved. The rabbinate in Israel has the power and the ability and the monies to be able to make a change in the dynamics that's happening throughout the world. Now, coming back to the issue with Rabbi Otero, A Meza, which we, and I say this through this video, completely are on two different roads. I wish Mr. Meza the best in his journey, in his direction, though I do not agree with him. I do not abide by his philosophy. I do have a different one. I believe we've got to work together as much as we can with mainstream orthodoxy. I am not against that, just the opposite, as I mentioned earlier. Any single person that we help through the conversion to make it halakhic conversion, there's any question or any doubt, contact me and I will put you through in contact with a Batay Din or various Batay Dins to make sure that those conversions are either rectified or validated one way or the other so that it is completely acceptable universally. That is my commitment to those of you who I was involved with helping you through a halakhic conversion. This is my way of trying to help and make things correct, even though I'm going to argue this point, but didn't see anything incorrect in what we were doing, because many today are in many synagogues practicing Judaism. Oh, they, you say, bunch of goyim in the synagogue. No, my friends, they would not be goyim if they were not practicing Judaism and took seriously the vows that they took upon themselves earnestly, allowing themselves to go under the Brit in Brit Milah by a moil and going through the whole entire process. Is there any correction that needs to be done? Let it be done, but don't impinge on the validity of the sincerity of that person who converted wholeheartedly to Orthodox Judaism, my friend. And here we go to the point. I just read to you the importance of what disqualifies a Batay Din. According to the mainstream modern Orthodox rabbi, Rabbi Morris Lamb, on becoming a Jew. And I'm using him this on purpose. He's a YU guy. He's a mainstream Orthodox guy. And I'm bringing this to one point. I am nobody to be able to lecture to no rabbi. But we need to start changing, I believe, in my own humble opinion, the way we're treating the converts. The way we are dealing with them with such a harsh, rash, and let me even dare say, mean attitude in your face. What's happening all throughout the world is not just a mere thing of just, oh, these people are wanting to marry into Judaism, or they just want to marry a Jew. It's greater than that. These are souls that are being stirred up from above, wanting to come and become who they really are. Whether it's from a DNA perspective that they have the Jewish blood, Jewish DNA, which of course Mr. Meza will be completely adamantly against me on that, or whether in fact a reincarnated soul, whatever you hold on this, the bottom line is something from above is taking place in this world and people are wanting to become Jewish. The rabbis have to be open and understand what is taking place on a spiritual level. For some reason, they can't understand it. They see this as wholesale conversions. Now, some of the rabbis that I've met who have the power to be able to make those conversions recognized by Israel, they're getting a good sense that what's happening on a spiritual level is making a lot of ching-ching. After all, why not charge a couple of good shekels to make a good return? But this is also something that has to be looked at a little bit further. My friends, those of you, and this is the reason for this video, short video, almost like 30-minute video, is to impress upon you, those of you that we have helped go through this conversion, Halakhic conversion, any issues, any questions that are raised by any rabbi, please have that rabbi and have those persons contact me directly, and we'll work on it to get this resolved and get it done. If we have to get it redone again, we'll get it done again. But I am supporting you. I am on your side, and I will bat for you because I've met you individually. We've talked. You've learned by me. You'll learn by others as well. Those in Ecuador, keep in mind, Rabbi Joseph Kalakowski was the presiding rabbi whose conversions was done on his shoulder. Those done in Denver, Colorado. Those done in Miami, Florida. Those, if you'll notice on the certificates, you'll probably see my name on it. Those of you there, please contact me. We get this rectified. One of the websites that I'm going to recommend, instead of the ones that you're used to going to, like bjew.org or bjew.com or bjew whatever, a good friend of mine who I've been in conversation with many, who has been a real strong person in everything that we're doing and trying to rectify a lot of this, is a man named Rabbi aryeh moshen. Most of you who are involved in conversions are already connected with him on his blog. He has and is a man that has a broad shoulder. I've met him personally here in Miami when he came down, and he has the ear, and we have talked. And hopefully we will be able to talk further to how to help many of you who are struggling with a lot of these issues. He is not the only one that I have spoken to. I have also spoken to other rabbis, because the numbers are incredible. Like I mentioned to you, Brazil alone, 17 million. Costa Rica, 75% of the population. Puerto Rico, at least a good 1 to 2 million. And if we go country by country, I sent a report out to Rabbi Hollander in Israel regarding the same information. Rabbis, and I hope, and I would pray, that if I would have any sechut whatsoever, that this video would be seen by Rabbi Amar of Israel, the chief rabbis, to understand the heart of many of these people that are wanting to cleave unto Torah. And unfortunately, many of the policies that has been enacted, instead of bringing a person who at the stake of their life, my friend, is willing to cleave to Judaism, and then hear the words, "You're not a Jew, get away, the doors are shut." It's a very sad thing. I would beg, yes, beg, the chief rabbis in Israel to create something that I had proposed to several Batay Dins here, and that is to create administrators from Batay Dinims in Israel, whose entire purpose would be to visit these communities that have been created throughout Latin America, Mexico, even here in the U.S., that has been organized in a very, very simple way, so that they can process them into Judaism that will be acceptable universally, both by the rabbinate in Israel, the rabbinate in America, and different organizations accordingly. I give you my number, my email, that's very public. Contact me. As a matter of fact, one of the things I'm going to do, I'm going to send this copy of this video. Maybe the best thing they can do is, Rabbi Otero is no longer validated. Please, my heart is to help, not to harm. And if anything I've done was to harm, slicha. But one thing is very clear, my sincerity and my Derek, I'm a Jew, an Orthodox Jew, and I will continue to help until I see some help, strategic help, in this issue of conversions take place from on high. If Hashem is doing the steering from above, should not its leader respond, its leaders from the great rabbinate respond to the divine stirring that's taking place? Should they not open the door? In fact, as they say, they want Mashiach bad so quickly to help this happen? Think about this. I'm willing and open to hear. We have created this site in English now, because we will begin to start teaching the general public basic elements of to be a Jew. It's going to be offered for free. We're not charging for these classes. Whatever's on these YouTube classes are absolutely free. If any of the other rabbis wish to comment on any of the videos, please do so. Be more than happy to accept, so that the people watching the videos and reading the comments on the YouTube will be able to learn. That is my hope. It's my contribution. And I hope you understand where my heart is at. It's greater than you could even imagine how many people want to convert to Judaism. I wish all of you a happy Purim, Sameach Purim.